Hello everyone, today's collection video is an individual movie, not a series or a special actor collection or anything. It's one of those movies that I have a large collection of because this is actually one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, a movie I've watched probably once a year ever since I was a little kid and rented it on VHS. Not this exact copy, but this release was the first way that I ever saw it on VHS. This late 80s VHS release of The Goonies. And it has always been, for as long as I can remember, one of my go-to feel-good movies, one of my favorite movies. It really, to me, there are only a handful of movies that I think perfectly encapsulate what it was like growing up at a certain period of time. It really takes this realistic portrayal of kids of a certain age and extrapolates that and puts it into this fantastical territory where it takes the kind of adventures and games that you went out with your friends and played and takes the parts that you imagined and makes them a real part of the adventure. To me, it is just the perfect time capsule for growing up in the 80s through the early 90s. It really just has a feel that reminds me of those times. It reminds me of people I knew in those times. And again, it feels like going on an adventure with my friends, the kind of things we did around their age. And just it makes, again, those parts that were a little more fantastical that couldn't actually happen in real life and makes them happen. It's an amazing movie that I think is just one of those where if you grew up in a certain time, it will really resonate with you far more than, say, someone born 20 years later or 20 years earlier. For me, it's just one of the perfect time capsule movies to a certain time period, and I absolutely love it, and I will never grow tired of it. It's one of my 10 favorite movies because I love it. So with that edition, and then there's an 80s version of VHS. It's kind of the one I always rented, and then the first version I ever owned was I originally owned this 90s clamshell VHS tape, and that was one of the movies that I just watched endlessly as a kid, never got tired of. Eventually, the copy that I probably watched the most over the years is then when it finally came to DVD, The Goonies. And this was really cool because I'd never owned, say, a Laserdisc copy or anything like that. Never really had access to the special features that are on here as a small making-of featurette, nothing too in-depth, but small making-of featurette and commentary, and of course the Cyndi Lauper video. The Goonies Are Good Enough, which I watched a million times, so that DVD edition, there's the front and the back of it, is one of the most watched, I think, individual discs, period, in our movie collection. I've probably watched this edition more than anything, other than some Pink Panther movies. So yeah, absolutely love this release, and I've gotten so much use out of it over the years. Then, of course, as the times moved on, I ended up with the first Blu-ray copy here, this triple feature with Gremlins and Gremlins 2. I mean, this is awesome. Just absolutely fantastic little collection here. I love this. This was a great buy and an easy, cheap way of finding the movie on Blu-ray, and I was happy that, again, it was individual discs, because sometimes with these collections, it's like, they shoved all three on one and compressed the heck out of it. But this is actually a decent collection. I just wish Gremlins 2 was maybe Adventures in Babysitting instead, and that would make that a perfect little collection. But that was the first way that I had it on Blu-ray. Then eventually, I have here, hopefully this protective case isn't too shimmery, but with this Goonies steelbook, which I love the design of. There are a couple different collection releases of the Goonies over the years. This is the one that I picked. There was an anniversary box set that had all kinds of memorabilia and things like that and whatever. It looked kind of cool, but a little too much space, really, when you get to some of these collections. And this, I think, is really pretty. I'm actually going to take this out of here, which I usually don't do unless I'm watching it, but because this is one of my favorite steelbooks, and again, having a beautiful steelbook of one of your 10 favorite movies. Goonies Never Say Die. I mean, this is just an amazing movie. Take that out there. Nice cover art on the inside. Put that back in its case. Yeah, the Goonies is just, to me, it is so iconic of a certain time and just instantly transports me back to a time in my life. And it's to me, it is childhood encapsulated in under 2 hours, and it really is just a great way of having a wonderful time. Then we have what is my latest addition to the collection. Another Blu-ray plus. It's a double pack here, regular Blu-ray and a 4K, and this is actually the only 4K Ultra HD disc we have in the entire collection. Didn't really get into 4K, not gonna have very many, but if I was going to have a movie in 4K, it was going to be The Goonies, because this is a movie that I will watch over and over again until the day that I perish. So that is our collection of The Goonies. Again, one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, like easily in that ranking. Just a wonderful movie that I've never gotten tired of, I never will be tired of, and a movie that I will just continue to watch forever and ever in every format that I have.